お帰りなさいませ。
Hello, Baka Brigade, Lightning Brigade. You know the stick. So this episode today of 86, episode 20, was a lot more character heavy than it was action heavy, which I like. There are certain episodes I think we've had in 86 that I wasn't the biggest fan of because they just became kind of military drama, which can be fun. But military drama has to have these splices of character moments in it. And the reason why they did it originally, I'm sure, is just to build up to these moments, which I can appreciate. There's small things. We're going to kind of go through them real quick. We have the United Kingdom hopping in. I thought that was funny because the UK. They're cloud jamming the Legion's communications to some degree. Shin's hearing for the Legion is crazy. And then we certainly get to more character moments. I'm mainly going to focus on these today because I think these are more of the things I find more interest in. Raiden starts giving Shin's orders because he's like, hey, dude, you go get Frederica and you go take her back. You're like the only person who can do that anyways, so just go ahead and do it. And Shin's like, no, we're not doing that. You can already go back, whatever, the whole thing. And then Raiden's like, also, you're not freaking leading right. That last charge we did, you were just running straight in, no real leadership, brain off, basically, in that kind of manner. And he's pointing out to Shin, like, you think you can fool me? Like, we've known each other for so freaking long. And as far as we know for character-wise, these two have had, like, a really close bond. Whenever Shin had to talk about something, it was typically to Raiden. Whenever I felt like a second-in-command needed to know about what the mission was today, it was Raiden. I think one of the first battles we saw in 86 in Season 1 was Shin taking out, like, a bunch of things, and then Raiden was the only one along with them, like, all the way up to the like inside enemy lines kind of thing. That wasn't like a really dangerous battle. It's when everybody was kind of alive, but Raiden was still up there with him, I would say. And so basically, this argument devolves into Shin's suicidal tendencies and Raiden trying to like point it out that it's very obvious to him. I'm almost trying to say he's trying to snap him out of it, but I think he understands enough he cannot do that. He's just trying to point it out to him that there is another option, it seems. Because, when Shin's like, no, you guys can do that. I'm just going to go by myself. It's a one-way mission. It's fine. Just go take your way back so that way you guys can go and live. He grabs Shin by the shirt and shoves him into the gate. And he's like, you think you can keep doing this to keep everybody alive? You think this is a one-way? You just said it's a one-way mission. What does that mean? Well, I'll eventually get back. Oh, clearly you won't, because you just said it's a one-way mission. And then he's like, don't talk too suicidal to yourself. And then as Shin is like saying like, I'll survive, he like looks away because he's clearly lying to himself, and he knows it's a very obvious lie. And as Raiden points out, you didn't kill your brother just to die. I thought the point of us doing that was for you to be able to move on by not having to hear your brother's voice anymore, ending his suffering and allowing him to go. But as we can see now, it seems Shin more than not adopted that as I was my brother's rebirth. So I ended his suffering, and now that I've ended that, I have earned, I don't want to say earned the right to die, because that's not really what he's saying. But he's now sent somebody else ahead of him again, and that's going to be a big thing for later on. So, Raiden basically points out to him that he doesn't have a very complicated goal. He just doesn't want to die. And as I wrote down, basic is effective. Like, you don't need to make it... A lot of people get focused when they have goals and aspirations to making it so over the top and so detailed that it overwhelms them, or they believe they need something like that. And while having more detailed idea for your goals can be good when you already have an established basic goal, because it allows you to like really hone in on like, this is the future I see. If you don't even have a basic goal, there's no point in having a super complicated one at that, or trying to leap to a complicated one. It's like trying to go from crawling to running. You might as well just walk. Either way. So, he wasn't the only one that was there. Everybody else was watching. And they were just kind of like, Theo wanted to go up there. He's like, I don't even feel like one of the boys right now. And then as Anju brings up, she's like, they've known each other the longest, so it's better if we just sit here. She's holding Karina, because Karina is like wanting to run up there to be involved. Both Theo and Karina want to be involved, is what I wrote. And I feel like this was really good build up to this moment, because earlier in the season, we got a bit of like, hey man, like what are we gonna do after this? And Shin's just like, what am I gonna do after this? I've never really thought about that. Um, those kind of things, right? And I'm gonna get a little bit further on that a bit later, just to remember that. So I thought it was a little good character banter here. Frederica critiques Karina, and then also like breaks down her little love for him. Also, we get a better moment. So let me not get in that part first. We get a moment where they kind of point out that Shin is probably feeling like an unneeded family member. I like for some of you guys to explain this if you can. To some degree, I sort of thought I got what they meant. Shin feels like he's not really useful anymore to some degree. And so now he doesn't really know what he's doing with himself, so he's kind of throwing himself out. But if you can explain it a bit better, go ahead, please. Anyways, so also Theo makes a joke like, "Hey, since Shin's depressed, this is like the best time to go get him." They say that's easier to make in a emotional relationship, and then Anji's like, "Only bad women or bad girls do that," and then they have like a little back and forth, and I like that. I thought it was really funny. Um, I think Theo's a bit more mischievous, and then Anji's a bit more mature, so that's always funny. Frederica says Shin probably sees you as a little sister, so it's that it's hard to deal with, and only sees your love for him as admiration. He probably doesn't see you as a woman, and then she faints and almost dies. And then Anji like basically kind of threatens Frederica to shut up. Oh my gosh. And then Karina gets up and goes, "At least I'm a good sniper. I'm useful." And I just went, man, that's sad. Karina's adorable. Karina is adorable. It's freaking funny. Even Fido is worried about Shin at this point. He's even watching him before he sees him go to the mech. He's watching him to make sure he doesn't just hop in the mech and go run into enemy turf. Some of the generals were surprised that they could sleep in enemy turf. Again, it was mostly just talking about like, hey, we won't just leave them completely to go die. We need them for humanity. We might as well use a blade. It's just my favorite part of the episode right now. And currently, this part of the season is feeling a lot like season 1. They're low on parts. They're stranded in the middle of nowhere with enemies. They have people on comms waiting for them to get back. It turns out the guys who went on the attack to like let Shin and them run forward on survived. As we saw with the Black Widow general or lieutenant, and then also with the smoking old dude with the gray hair. Because she walked in there and was like, oh. But yeah, at least all of them are alive, and I think they're trying to run back into the front lines or something like that right now, because they're like, the youth would laugh at us if we just went back and we were drinking while they were out there at war. And also throughout this entire time, we have this symbolism of a dead butterfly slowly being eaten and consumed by ants. This anime sure knows how to be, I'm going to call it the word, it's probably not the complete word, but melodramatic. And not in a bad way. Melodramatic in the sense of like, typically we go on shows, right? Whenever you go like the next scene of like an anime, like a romantic comedy, what do you see? Like a squirrel or 2 birds go by or whatever else. 86 wants you to feel depressed. So when they show you, it's a dead butterfly slowly being consumed by ants. And I'm sure there's one guy like, I was happy for the ants. But that's not the point. The lighting, the music, and the melodramatic kind of feeling. No. So anyways, as they're like kind of sleeping towards the night in like this little place, after they've had this talk about not seeing the sea before, and all of them agreeing except Shin to go and see the ocean, after Frederica brings it up with none of them seen it before, we get this kind of talk between Frederica and Shin. And Shin basically describes himself and his feelings currently at the moment. He basically implies he's a ghost. He says after he was supposed to die, he hasn't been able to feel anything after that. That makes him feel non-human and bizarre. I'm just kind of laying everything out. This isn't the right order. He used Kyrie as a replacement goal for his brother, thinking he was also only having fun, as Frederica points out. Like, didn't you have fun at one point? He only was having fun with his friends because he also thought he was going to die soon. And then, I'm trying to think, what else was his? He has no wishes, and to him, wishes are what make you human. And he seems to just be clinging on to his whole identity because he is scared of the future and its endless possibilities to some degree. Shin feels like he's going to be left behind, and I'm sure Vladilena possibly dying has not helped with this. So that's a big thing. Frederica also gives back counterpoints and basically almost implies a little bit of what he's going through, but she still has the hope, and maybe it's naivety, but she still has hope in some regards. For her currently, Frederica is dealing with some baggage herself. With Kyrie being alive, she wants to be able to put him out of his misery, but she also doesn't want to see him die. Doing this is technically killing him again, and that's worrying the crap out of her. She's also very worried that she's about to start a war for the Republic, or possibly, because they're a Republic now, not a Federacy or whatever. I can't even think of it right now. My point is that she used to be a princess, okay? Now it's a Republic. So there's really no need for her, and people could start a war off that. There's been plenty of wars started for less. And then I'm sure for her right now, the future is also very scary, and she almost seemed like she was a bit suicidal, too, at the time. At least going out to war to try to end Curie, Curie, like she's gonna think she's going to. That was not the way you word that. Either way, I really liked this part because what it tells us is Shin is not completely being honest with himself. What he literally just said is he did have a wish. The issue is the wish wasn't a happy one. The wish was to die. So you're human. You're just a sad human. That's what that is, right? People have had these thoughts way longer in my life before I've had one of these thoughts before, but we're not going to get into that. Point remains is people sometimes have an idealistic version of what they think humans are like. And Shin, being so separated from normal day-to-day, has now envisioned himself only as this caricature of himself. He's just the Reaper. He doesn't give himself any of the moments he had beforehand, like fishing Shin or the weird almost Jesus Shin for a minute when they were going and leaving. Shin when he's talking to the Major. Shin when he was just with his friends. Yeah, you're quiet, you read books. It's still a you. It's just not like all your other friends. You can be the quiet person, and that can still be a version of yourself. At least this is as much as what I get out of it a little bit. I guess it doesn't make my interpretation right, and it also doesn't make my interpretation wrong. It's just what I'm getting out of the media so far. And because of this, Shin he hears from all his friends what kind of future they want, and he's basically judging himself with them because they seem to have really big aspirations in comparison to him. And I'd say for like normal people, wanting to go see the ocean after a war isn't really like a big aspiration. It's just I don't want to die. It's I don't want to die with an idealistic tone at the very end of it, right? And Shin doesn't understand, I guess, again, in his own words, he feels like a ghost, so he feels like he's something that does not belong currently here, and that ghosts aren't supposed to want anything. So there's also the implication he is making himself not want anything, because a ghost isn't supposed to. Whether it be guilt for his brother, guilt for all the people he thinks he's left behind, or not left behind, but he left him behind, you know what I mean. In a way you could say him living is leaving them behind, and then them dying first is them leaving him behind. So, as we see beforehand, I was going to say, even with the imagery from beforehand in the previous episode, when he's, like, hearing their voices in his head, he's technically in front of them, right? He's technically, literally left them behind. So, no. Again, it's how you want to interpret it. I'd really like to hear your thoughts on this. I'm sure some of you are going to have way more passionate thoughts about this. But I think this is a really good build-up for Shin's character, because we've had so many episodes of him just being shut in, kind of quiet, and all we get are the little footnotes of how he's feeling, which is just him running into battle like an insane person with a grin on his face because he might end up dying, but at least he's having the thrill of his life for a moment. At least he's finally getting what he deserves. At least the ghosts are finally going to fight, right? And again, he tried using Curie as his brother substitute. He doesn't know what other future to give himself. And we've had this beforehand when Raiden asks, like, oh yeah, what kind of dream do you have? Anything with like the Major? That's the only thing that made him think about it for a second. And even in the opening, I believe the tones of red and blue, now that we've been so far in it, the tone of red is humanity, basically, and wanting to live on, all kind of stuff like that, like the blood of humanity. And blue is the color of the Legion. And he only gets the red, I think, in the opening, that one part when I think he, like, turns his head, is when he, like, is hearing Vladilena again. So, who knows? Again, she might have a moment back, or he'll just remember something about her. Who knows? But the first thing Shin needs to do is realize that a new goal isn't something that comes to you. A new goal is something that you just make up for yourself. Then, as Frederica already pointed out, you guys had all the freedom in the world, and you got to choose what you wanted to do. Some of it's not going to feel right. Some of it's going to feel wrong or off-putting. Sometimes you just feel scared of the entire thing. People have this ideal fantasy that the goals you make up are going to be something you're always super passionate about, but that's not always how it happens. Passions find you after you make choices, to me, at least. You find more about yourself the further you just try to walk through stuff. Um, it's weird, strange, but you walk in the dark enough, you'll bump into something. It's basically it. But let me know what you thought about this episode of 86. I was trying not to make this too long, but oh my gosh, is that a good episode? Also, Kirei's coming from them. Forgot that. I'm curious to see what you feel like about Shin's discussion. I feel like this was a very strong episode for him, and I have to go watch Demon Slayer now. Okay, I'll catch y'all later. Peace. Bye.